Hey, Brad.
Hey, Jules.
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm, when we're recording this, we are just kicking off January. So I'm in the middle of my health reset journey again. Boy, it's been a while since I've been there. And it feels good to be back right now. Ask me in a week from now, it might be a different answer. So, but I'm doing good. How are you, Brad?
I'm good. And listen, for what it's worth, Jules, I got to tell you, you don't look unhealthy at all. And I know you stay healthy, but I appreciate that. It's time to take care of myself because I've been on a bender since the old
I think it was
break.
ever since we went to Scorpion Bay for the Baja 1000 in November.
The week before Thanksgiving, I've been on a bender. Holy smokes. I remember limping home from Mexico. I don't want to
I've been limping.
Oh, what's
I
that?
limped
Eggnog?
into
Okay.
2024. Yeah, I limped into 2024. It was a tough time.
Totally.
So I will say, when we're recording this season, some episodes will be recorded while I am practicing dry January. So don't fret, people. These will not be mocktail specific episodes. Brad's keeping it with the classics that we have some really great recipes coming up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my recipe that is alcoholic. It's going to be on the website, but I'm going to be drinking on the podcast mocktail versions. So I'll have two, you get kind of bonus recipes to that, I can drink, and then I'll be able to drink after the fact. Yeah. So,
well, given that we're about 2 weeks ahead, right? So this episode is going to come out in 2 weeks from now, and it's beginning of January. So, yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? Go 2 episodes and be like, all right, I'm back on the bus because the beginning of February is rolling in, like the middle of January for us, or you're gonna extend dry January into February. I guess you're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna have to. Brad, I'm
here first. That's what's
for everybody. Yeah, for everybody listening, this is my first year. I am so serious. I've always said I'm going to do dry January. Then it's turned into actually I'm gonna do a damp January, and then it's like, yeah, I'm over it. So this is the first year I'm really going to do the 4 weeks in January. And what I probably will do is I have a lot of these recipes that I've made before and I've made riffs on. So I will speak to the recipe, and more often than not, there's so many great spirit alternatives. So if we're, let's just say, making a gin cocktail, all the other ingredients usually don't have a liqueur. So I'll just use a gin alternative. It's kind of like an easy solution. So it won't be anything
there's spirit
crazy.
alternatives out there.
Yeah.
And, look, I've got friends who have given up the bottle because of various reasons, and they've moved on to spirit free.
Yeah.
Spirit free, different types of gins and bourbons and whatnot, and that's perfectly acceptable in my book. But no shame in your game if you decide to go from dry to damp to just.
We're really getting into we're getting into the actual art of drinking, and that
this
can
is
be
artful.
it could be for everybody, right? So no, it'll be good. And I feel like for this episode today was a fun challenge because we're doing the Belini, which is
It's a low ABV.
Yeah, it's a great option if you're doing damp January. And for me, I got the non-alcoholic sparkling wine, and it is a okay substitution for when you're doing
very convincing.
Yeah,
I like how you underlined that.
It's okay. It is. Yeah. It's tough. It's tough for me because Brad, like we love the art of drinking an alcoholic cocktail. We love the reasoning behind it and the spirit behind it. I've never been a big advocate for non-alcoholic, but I know that there's a there. So me having both sides, totally it's tough for me. But I will say I'm taking this month to really focus on great brands. And the one I used today was Shirley. And it was okay to substitute for Brut style bubbles. So
it was all right. It was okay. And for those of you who are like, all right, I'm just going to do this dry January thing and I'm going to struggle along and listen to the art of drinking and
listen to me struggle.
So I've got an okay option. Good. It's like, yeah.
You guys.
I got a hamburger helper, which is it's edible.
Okay.
It's okay. it made me.
Well, you know what? If there's one thing I'm not going to do, I'm not going to lie on the podcast. Like,
yeah, you know what? Actually, I appreciate that. I don't want to ever get into a situation where you lie to. I mean, in fact, we're totally like, we're testing out some things right now with people who might be a potential sponsor. And I'm like, I want to know if I like it before I'll talk about it, because I don't ever want to talk about something I don't like.
Plus, now I'm on a mission to find a Bubbles non-alcoholic that's better than okay. I want to find one that's like, wow, this is really
that's
good.
Great. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So, if you haven't, put it together, already, and you've never heard of the Belini, which I feel like you will be living under a rock if that is the case, but that's okay. Main ingredient is prosecco, so you will need bubbles for this round. And Brad's going to get into the classic recipe, which we are doing 2 ways just based on seasonality and convenience. Mm-hmm. So, we'll have both recipes of the purees on our website. And then Brad, you're getting into the history of the Belini, which there is a really good history on it, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll do a little history on the person and the bar
quiz.
Yeah.
There's a little quiz section towards the end that was really difficult for me, but we got through it. Yeah.
And then you're going to talk about how to make
tips
frozen
at
drinks,
the end.
right? Tips at the end, frozen drink tips. Yeah. One thing I'll say before we get on to making the cocktail, which I'm excited to do, is one, I got a new cocktail station, so I've got this like microphone that's going to be the first time I used it, so that'll be interesting to try out.
Yeah.
We'll see if there's going to be a little bit of difference in my voice. And 2, you said something that reminded me of something I want to make sure that people really understand, is that when you make a Bellini, and you've heard me say before that a French 75 needs to be made with champagne, not Prosecco. And I stand by that. You absolutely do not make a French 75 with Prosecco, just because it just doesn't work. But a Bellini is 100% with Prosecco and never, ever with champagne. So
yes.
So when you say bubbles, we mean Prosecco bubbles in this case.
Yes.
So
Great clarification. Yep. Right. I agree. Well, speaking of bubbles, let's pop this thing off to our next section and make a cocktail.
That made a noise.
That was pretty good.
Myself in the face. Was it? Could you hear the pop?
I did.
I just gave myself a bloody nose. Okay.
Oh no.
Here we go.
All right. I need something. All right.
All right, Jules.
Brad. I'm excited for this one because I know this is my mom's favorite. And I'm excited to see it made the right way. So show me how to make a good old Belini, a classic.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. You sound great.
So you said making it the right way.
Yeah.
And I need to be honest with you that the absolute right way to make this is using white peaches. The problem is white peaches aren't in season.
Well,
so
they're tough. It's tough to be practical year round, right? I mean,
right. Yeah. So I went with yellow peaches, frozen, but I'm going to give you the recipe 2 ways, and there's not much variance. So you'll know how to make it the right way when peaches are in season.
Yep.
For now, until those peaches are in season, you can still enjoy a Bellini.
Yeah. Well,
using
Brad,
yellow peaches.
I love that too, because there are so many cocktails out there that focus on a specific, like rhubarb is another tough one where you're like, God, where the hell am I going to find rhubarb, if it's not in season? So I feel like giving both options, which by the way, yellow peaches are like the most popular anyway. Might as well be, realistic here. So I appreciate that, because I'm also using the frozen peaches too, because they're in season right now in the freezer section.
Yeah. And here's the deal. White peaches are a little less acidic and a little sweeter.
Yep.
Yellow peaches are not, but you can fix that.
Yeah.
A little simple syrup. So, all right. Making the Bellini the right way, you're going to want to get 3 to 4 white peaches when they're in season.
Yeah.
And then what you do is you grab those peaches, you wash them off, you score them 4 slices around the skins, okay? And then you're going to blanch them in boiling water, quickly take them out, plunge them into ice cold water, remove the skins, and then open them up, remove the pith or the pit, and then you're going to put them in a food processor. Oh God, my God, I don't know why I can't finish my words. You're going to put them in a food processor and not a blender, because a blender incorporates too much air, and this comes right from the people who invented it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you process that until it's smooth. And then once you've got that to a smooth texture, if you want, you can add 4 teaspoons of cherry juice, which brings the color out that people would see if they go to Venice and order one of these.
Okay.
Following me?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm following. Yeah, I'm tracking.
Now, what you do next doesn't matter if it's the yellow peaches or the white peaches, because once the puree is done, it's going to be put into a vessel. In this case, I'm using science beakers.
Nice. Yes.
Half a bottle of prosecco. And then you're going to put in the puree mix with a little delicacy. You don't want to get all the foam going all over.
You don't want to lose.
And then you're going to take your glass and you're going to add 3 ounces of prosecco.
Okay.
And to that, you're just going to top it off with your peach puree. And just like that.
Oh.
And it's super easy. But if you go too fast, you'll foam it up. Now, with the yellow peaches, what I did is I added a tablespoon of simple syrup.
Right.
And I used 16 ounces of frozen peaches. So that made my puree. I didn't do any cherry juice because it's just going to add a little tartness. And bingo, here we go. I've shopped this around. People really like it. I've seen a few recipes, as I shopped around looking for the right version of this.
Yeah.
Seems to be the winner. And I got to tell you, from a taste, yeah.
It's so good.
It's delicious.
Oh, God. My mom really does. She loves these. And I can only imagine in peach season, which, I did a peach week. I don't think I did a Belini last year, which what a miss that was.
Yeah. I don't drink these very often.
I don't either. But seeing how easy it is to make, I would much rather that than a mimosa. Sorry, I'm a hater of the mimosa. So this is like the better version for me.
Yeah.
Nice, Brad.
Now,
okay.
One thing I'll tell you that I left out about the Prosecco. It's really important when you get the Prosecco that it is DOC or DOCG.
Yeah.
And what that means is designation of controlled origin. And the G means it's guaranteed. There's a lot of fakies out there. And with this DOC and DOCG, you're getting the real stuff.
Yeah.
Because Prosecco comes from a very specific place in Italy. So it's kind of like champagne, although it's not called the Prosecco region. It comes from a specific place, has a specific taste. In this case, you've heard me talk about these guys before. Via degli Olmi. And this comes from a little bottle shop down the street from me. And I'm pretty sure you can find it where you're at too.
Okay, well, coming at you live from the nice. Oh, what do you now? Hey, whoa! We just jumped right in. What's going on here?
No, I put my ice in my Yeti, but it sat for a second, so I'm just getting it off the sides.
You know what? I love that Yeti.
Yeah, I'm already done, Brad.
Yeah, I love the Yeti for the ice storage.
Ice.
I have it here all the time next to me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, are we ready for mine?
Stanley's. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, yeah, Stanley's terrible. Anyway, okay, so Brad, I said at the top of the episode, I want to reiterate again that while we're recording this, we are in the month of January. So I am giving you actually a bonus recipe for those that are not wanting a boozy cocktail. I know what you're thinking. Why would I ever want that? But there may be a time, maybe you're pregnant, maybe you are doing a dry month. So I'm doing mine dry, but I'm also putting on our website, theartofdrinkingpodcast.com, the real version of this recipe. It's equally as delicious, but if I weren't doing dry January, I wouldn't be doing this recipe, if that makes sense, because the one with the booze is the best. And what I'm making is that frozen bitter Bellini. Frozen, we're blending it with ice. Bitter, of course, come on. I had to use some Aperol. And we're using peaches for the Bellini. So what I'm doing is I'm making a mocktail version of this. So what I'm going to do is I have my blender here, and I'm going to start adding all my ingredients to my blender. What I want to add in first are my peaches, and I'm adding in about a cup of frozen peaches. And yes, I too, like Brad, am using the what did you call them? The yellow peaches? The yellow peaches.
Yellow peaches. Yep.
Yeah. I'm using yellow peaches. Yeah. So those go right in my blender. Then I'm also going to add in, I know those are frozen, but I'm also going to add in some crushed ice. And like we said at the beginning, make sure to listen to the tips section where we talk about some tips and tricks for a really great frozen drink. So there's a reason for this, and we'll explain it in our tips section. So we got some frozen ice chunks in there. Now from here, what I'm going to do is I want to add in some fresh lemon juice. One of the things I like to do too with frozen drinks is add a little bit of zest. I think it brings out the lemon flavor or the citrus flavor that you're using when you're blending, because I think sometimes it can get lost. So I'm adding just a little bit, not even half of the lemon, just like, I don't know, a couple pulls. And then I'm going to squeeze some fresh lemon. And we're going to do about 3/4 of an ounce over here of fresh lemon juice.
Okay.
So you got 3/4 lemon juice, a 1/2 ounce honey syrup.
Ooh.
You know, just bring out those flavors, right? I feel like as we're... And
how do you make honey syrup again?
Honey syrup is equal parts honey to water. You could also do a 2-to-1. But I just do about a 1/2 cup of honey with a 1/2 cup of water.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah. So you got your syrup in there. Now, here is where it comes down to I'm doing dry January. Okay. So bear with me. I have this Gia, I think it's called, and it is an aperitif, non-alcoholic, which is going to substitute my Aperol. And we're going to do 1 ounce of that. And then we are going to do 4 ounces of prosecco. I'm doing dry January. So I have this non-alcoholic brut that we're going to be using. I know. This is the first year I'm really taking it seriously. So I'm trying.
Yeah, this is like, I mean, this is really operating with one hand tied behind your back, right? Like, oh, here we're doing a drinking podcast. I'm not drinking, but that's okay. That's okay. It's, you know, like
we're making it
hey,
work.
Look, you got friends that don't drink, so you know it can be like a little mix and match.
Totally.
So you know, maybe next year on dry January we get a little bit more planful, and we just kind of have a whole series set up for it where I'm still going to do the loaded leaded cocktail while you do the unleaded. But well,
that's what I kind of figured, right? I mean, my alcoholic recipes, trust me, you're going to want them. They're still going to be on the website, but I want to drink this throughout the podcast, so I wanted to give it a shot. So here we have this mocktail version, which I'm now going to blend up in my trusty old blender.
Fun time. There you go.
I'm going to give it one more little zhuzh. Come on. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Come on.
Oh my God.
And
that's fantastic. That needs like whipped cream or something. I don't know. How's it taste? Yeah.
Okay.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Honestly, it tastes really good. The only thing I would note is I would make sure you get a non-alcoholic sparkles that you like, because you can really taste that through here. Which if you're using regular prosecco, you'll have no problem, and it would be equally as delicious. But if you are going to go the non-alcoholic route, I would make sure you're using ingredients that you like. Don't just like, you need to try them before you use them. But I'm happy with everything I did here, given that this is a mocktail version. But I can attest, because I made it before, my Frozen Bitter Bellini with the alcohol measurements is equally, and I hate to say it, is 10 times better than this. But this is a great alternative if you are practicing dry January. If you are non-alcoholic, it's also a great option. And I will say, the lemon zest, I think, is a must here too, because it brings out just such a nice fresh flavor on top of all the other flavors you got going. So I'm really happy with this. And now I can drink with you, Brad.
There you go. Yeah, here we go. Now, so you're doing NA, I'm doing low ABV.
Yeah.
So I guess this kind of falls into damp January, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So,
damp and dry.
This is one of the few times I'll be damp this January for sure. But but hey, I'll play ball for a little bit and just jump right back on that horse here. Maybe.
Wait, this is really good. I'm really happy with this, Brad.
I'm glad you're happy with that. Looks like chopsticks. What do you got there? It's a straw. Okay.
It's a straw.
Well, there it is. We did it.
Perfect.
Should we move on to the history behind the Belini?
Yeah. I'd like to learn about this one while I sip away here.
All right, cool. Let's do it.
All right.
Jules.
I can tell you this much about the history of the Belini.
Yeah. What's that?
It's Italian.
Oh, yeah. I think we even gave it away in a previous episode. I can't remember which one, but we talked about the Belini.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely Italian. And this is just Italian through and through here as we go through the story. So it gets even better. So what I'll do is let me walk you through kind of a couple of things here, right? Because I always like to set a little context. So I think what we need to do is we need to talk about the inventor, Giuseppe Cipriani, and his life in the empire that was built in his name. And it's kind of an interesting story. Okay. And then we'll talk about the bar at which this was created, and that's Harry's Bar in Venice. Yeah, Harry's Bar in Venice. Unrelated to Harry's Bar in Paris.
Wow.
Unrelated.
I thought it was Paris. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, there's Harry's Bar in Paris, and there's Harry's Bar in Venice. Two different people.
Wow, okay.
Not related at all. And then we'll talk a bit about the cocktail itself and how that got created, but then also just kind of some fun facts about the Ciprianis and Harry's, and we'll close it out. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah.
Cool. Let me get a sip of water here. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Got a little cough. All right. So Giuseppe Cipriani. This guy was born
name.
Giuseppe.
What a name. Yeah.
Giuseppe. Hey, Giuseppe.
Hey, Giuseppe.
Yeah. How you doing? I don't know. It's probably not like that. All right. Anyways, so Giuseppe Cipriani, he was born in 1900 and he died in 1980. And he was born in Verona, Italy, and moved kind of Germany, moved around and, worked in the hotel industry, blah, 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 whatever. Ends up making his home in Venice and is working at Hotel Europa. And this is where he met a gentleman by the name of Harry Pickering. And Harry was a young and wealthy American from Boston. And as the story goes, Harry, his aunt, her boy toy, which is a young man that, fill in the blanks, right?
But it was his aunt?
His aunt had a boy toy that was there with them.
Wow.
Harry wasn't the boy toy.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for clarifying there.
Hey, listen, I had to read it twice. So
wow. Okay. Now I'm tracking. Yeah. Okay.
And she also had a lap dog, right? So anyways, the lap dog is really not important other than the fact
we know
that
too much.
They referenced the lap dog because what happened is is that they would frequent Hotel Europa, where Giuseppe was the barman, and the aunt up and leaves and disappears into the wind with her boy toy, and leaves Harry behind with the lapdog and $0, no money. So Giuseppe is known to be a generous person, and he had a very kind and soft heart. And so Giuseppe loans him some money. Now, there's another story out there that Harry Pickering was cut off from the family fortune because they didn't approve of his drinking lifestyle.
Oh,
right. So this is, so the bar was...
Sounds like family drama. There's one story and there's another
so
story.
This was definitely, this was the 1920s during Prohibition, but they're in Europe, imbibing and having a good old time while we were back trying to figure out why the hell we ever did that. So anyways, so either way, the guy's broke and needs money, and all stories point back to Giuseppe loaning him 10,000 lira, which is the equivalent of $500 then, and about $8,000 today.
Wow.
And Harry vows to pay him back, disappears. 3 years later, comes back, meets Giuseppe, gives him back the money that he loaned him, plus 4 times more. So Giuseppe was handed $40,000 in today's money, or 40,000 lira, or actually 50,000 lira back then. Jeez. And now he has got this money in his hand, which, doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it was enough for him to start his lifelong dream of opening a bar. And as Giuseppe searched and searched and searched around Venice, he found a small warehouse on a dead-end street where he could fulfill this dream. And he opened up his own bar, and to honor his friend, he called it Harry's.
Oh,
that's sweet.
That's sweet. I like that. I also love how he stuck it to his family too. If it were that story, oh, you think I'm an alcoholic? Really? Let me open a bar.
Yeah.
Let me have it be super successful.
Well, here's the deal. Giuseppe opened the bar. Harry gave him the money. So,
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all
but
right.
still,
That's
but
right.
still.
I mean, you can't blame the drink
it.
on that one. You're like dry right now. So, anyways.
Anyway.
I know. All right. So, anyways, the bar does well, a few years later, and we'll talk about the drink here in a second, but I just kind of want to continue talk about Cipriani and how he kind of built this empire. Or how his family built this empire. So a few years later, 1950s. By the way, that was 1931 that he opened Harry's. All right. So Harry's opened up in Venice in 1931. Now, in 1950, somewhere in the early 50s, he purchased another building in Venice and opened up the Hotel Cipriani, which as of this year was rated as the best hotel in the world. Hotel Cipriani. It's now a Belmont property, so I don't think it's in the Cipriani family. It's not in the Cipriani family anymore.
Wow.
But the Ciprianis still own, this big empire that has all these other properties.
Crazy.
We'll talk about that.
That's awesome.
So in 1932, Harry's son, Arrigo, which is Italian for Harry, Arrigo.
Cute.
And so he was born, and again, named after his buddy Harry, who, gave him the opportunity to open up his own spot. So years later, 1985, Arrigo takes the Cipriani name and goes international, and they open up Harry's Harry's Cipriani's in New York. And today the family owns 24 restaurants and lounges, 6 private and extremely exclusive clubs, 5 hotels and residences. One's like just going up in Miami right now. Like, these are high-end joints, and a few other businesses. And these are all run by Arrigo's son. And he named his son Giuseppe after his dad. So Giuseppe's running it again. It just sounds like there's just a lot of love in this family, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I love that.
There's also some stories that they may have been working with the Gaudis at one time, but hey, look, I can't blame you. You're doing business in New York.
Yeah, I mean, to each his own.
Yeah.
To each his own.
Yeah, and they actually even owned the Rainbow Room at one time, which is famous spot, right? That's Dale DeGraff, right? All right, so back to the cocktail. Let's get to the cocktail. So in 1948, and this is before he opened the hotel, and years after he opened up Harry's, he invents the Bellini cocktail. And as the story goes, is Giuseppe had an affinity for white peaches. He loved them. He loved the way they smelled. They're apparently very aromatic.
Thing.
What?
Just like what's something like if somebody were to ask, what's a fun fact about you? I love white peaches. Like just so silly and cute to have that be your thing.
Well, my thing is, I mean, if we're talking about what we love, like I love a bowl of raspberries. If you give me I will take that over any dessert, a bowl of raspberries. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Big fan.
Wow. All right. Well, cute.
Well, yeah. So I'm apparently like Harry because he loved himself some white peaches. And when he was at the bar, he wanted to recreate something that brought this, his affinity for these peaches into a cocktail. And so the other thing that was really predominant in the area is prosecco. Now, Veneto, which is a region, is where Venice is. This region is the major producer, actually, I think is the producer of prosecco. So Veneto is a big region and it extends all the way up to, Slovenia and or maybe it's Slovakia. I don't know. Either way, extends up there and up to the northeast corner of Italy, which Venice is right up there on the water. And prosecco is in abundance, as apparently are these peaches. And so he took prosecco and he took his peaches and he made a puree out of the peaches. And when he was experimenting with it, people were taste testing and they were like blown away by this. And they were like, okay, you got to keep going until you hit it. But this is wonderful. And finally, he finds the ratio that he finds to be right. And he gives it the name, the Belini, because it is named after this artist that it was a Renaissance artist, Giovanni Bellini. You knew this?
It sounded familiar. Oh, I knew that it came from someone famous. I knew that there was a Belini last name that this was named after, which is why I had to assume it wasn't named after somebody they knew. So I'm starting to put the pieces together.
Yeah.
Like they didn't name it after like themselves or their family members, because I know the Bellini's like it's a popular, like famous name of someone popular back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, you're Italian, so you're in the know on that stuff.
Yeah, I'm like Bellini. Sounds important.
Yeah. So I heard that before. I don't know where. Maybe it was brunch. Anyways, so excuse me. So he loves this Venetian artist, and it reminds him. And by the way, Giovanni Bellini was from the 15th century. And if you're like wondering, well, what were some of the things that he worked on? Like many artworks, he has many artworks. But the Agony in the Garden, the Sacred Conversation, Feast of the Gods, those are kind of some of the more popular works that he's done.
Yeah.
But there's a number of them out there. And the color of the Bellini reminded him of the warm kind of pink hues that he would see in the skies and the paintings that Giovanni Bellini would make. And so he named the cocktail after this because it reminded him of his favorite painter. Now, today, the drink, obviously the drink took off and today it's still quite popular. So this was invented in 1948 and the IBA, which is the International Bar Association, they keep a list of the most popular cocktails. And this list changes from time to time. The Bellini has been a perennial cocktail on that list. Not every cocktail can say that. The Bellini can.
That does not surprise me at all. I mean, to tell you, everybody knows what it is. Not everybody orders it, but it's almost always on a menu. And it's just one of those that has always just hasn't even sat in the passenger seat. It's been sitting in the back seat and it has been there and riding this train for years.
And so I told you while we were between segments that I haven't consumed a lot of these. And the reason is artificial peach flavor is probably one of my least favorite flavors. Now, I like fresh peaches. It's funny because I love fresh peaches. I hate the skin.
Oh yeah,
so
that's
I don't
funny.
eat a
But
lot of
I
peaches
think that's
too.
common. Yeah, I love the skin.
Yeah, so
I actually genuinely like the skin.
It's one of the last fruits I go for. But I don't ever order Bellini because I'm like, oh, it's probably got like peach schnapps or some BS in it that I'm not going to like it. So I just bypass it all the time. Whereas, making them fresh with, even this using yellow peaches instead of white peaches, it's wonderful. It's absolutely such a wonderful cocktail and such a great alternative to, your everyday, the mimosa.
Brad, I will tell you,
mimosa. Yeah.
I hate peach flavored anything. I can't stand it. I can't drink it. I had a cocktail. It was a spritz. Beautiful ingredients, and it had just a little bit of peach liqueur. And I was like, you know what? Really?
Yeah.
I'll try it. I could not drink it. There's something about it. And, for those of you who don't know, I was born in Northern California. My family is like peach farmers. That's one of the tree fruits that they grow. And I think because I've always had them fresh, it is such an artificial flavor. I only recommend having a Bellini with fresh ingredients. And I never will ever, unless someone's out there who's ready to change my mind, which I'm open to, but I've never had a peach flavored anything that was artificially flavored that I've liked.
Yeah. Sorry, we're kind of going off on a tangent right now, but when we talked about the Fish House Punch, right, that episode, and that incorporates peach brandy into the recipe, which they say you can use regular peach brandy, but what you should be using is brandy that's actually made from peaches, kind of like Applejack is made from apples, right? It's not apple flavored. It's made from the apple. I've never had this peach brandy made from actual peaches because apparently you got to be in a region where they got peaches, because it's not something that you really make outside of these regions. And I'm dying to try true peach brandy. So, I said earlier, like, I don't like peach flavor, artificial flavor, but I will, if something's got natural flavor to it, I'm all over it, right? But the fuzzy navel, no, I'm not on board with the fuzzy navel. And I'm sure we'll even talk about the fuzzy. Do you really? All right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's one of those I don't order because I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to like this artificial peach flavor. I got to give it a shot. Let's maybe talk about it at some point, one of these seasons coming up, because hell, we're going to talk about some drinks that people have written off. Like we just talked about the Amaretto Sour, which is like been a trendy drink. I didn't even know that.
Right.
So anyways, I digress.
Give peach a chance.
What were we talking
about? Except unless
we were talking about the Belini.
And don't. Yeah.
Yeah. No. All right. So he invents the Belini. It becomes this world famous cocktail. Is perennial champion on the IBA. Not a champion, but it's definitely up there, right? I think it's like 80 some drinks on the IBA, and
for sure.
There's a gazillion drinks out there in the world, right? So something to be proud of. Yeah. But that's not all. Giuseppe didn't just invent the Bellini. Do you know what else he invented? I'll give you a hint. It's not a cocktail.
Huh. Then I have no idea.
Let me give you another hint. You're probably not going to know this. It's one of my favorite go-to dishes when and sometimes it's an appetizer, but sometimes it's a main course. Rarely, but when it is, oh my God, I'm all over it. A little red in color, might have a little sauce on it. Maybe a little arugula salad in the middle.
I have no idea.
All right, let me tell you.
What is it?
Yeah, let me tell you. All right, so this woman comes in the 1960s. I think it was 1964. And she is a Venetian countess. And she tells Harry that she is under strict doctor's orders to eat raw meat. So Harry thought that, well, maybe thinly sliced filet, and he seasoned it up with a little special sauce, probably Dijon, egg yolk, a little olive oil, a little lemon, drizzled over the top of that. Maybe that might do the trick. Is this starting to kind of feel familiar to you?
Is this no, keep going. I don't want to guess wrong. Keep going.
Well, that's it. That's the end of the clues. All right. He took his inspiration from one more clue. He took his inspiration from the red color, which reminded him of the colors that he would find in also another famous artist's paintings from
Is this like a carpaccio?
Venice, there you go.
Ha-ha.
Beef carpaccio.
Yes.
He invented that? Beef carpaccio. Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That is so random. That is so
random.
Yeah.
So this guy is like just like And this is the thing they say about his restaurants, like they're delicious, and his focus was simplicity. Because beef carpaccio, it's simple, right? Like it's just a couple of ingredients,
right?
And the Belini, just a couple of ingredients. And I guess if you were to go to Harry's today, I haven't been, but from the stories that I read, it's still just in exquisite condition, but it's simple. It's not overly done. White tablecloths, linens, very unoppressive, right? Is a lot of words that are used to describe this: unoppressive and simple.
Wow.
But
what a guy.
But elegant nonetheless. All right. So here's some fun facts about Harry's. So we talked about royalty, and let's talk about some of the other 20th century icons. And this is just a short list of many people who would frequent Harry's because he made such a name for himself with service and quality. So Charlie Chaplin, Humphrey Bogart, Katharine Hepburn, Winston Churchill, Alfred Hitchcock, Orson Welles, Sinclair Lewis, Franklin Lloyd Wright. Like all of these people would go there. But you know who else went there, Jules? Also a writer and somebody that's shown up in many a bar around the world. The name is?
Hemingway?
Yeah, Ernest Hemingway.
Thank God.
This was Ernest.
I hate these things.
Pop quizzes
because
on the spot.
Yeah. I'm like,
I was making sure you're listening, when we're
but
doing
then what
these
if you're like, oh my God, how could that be your answer? It wasn't even around then. I'm like,
well, that's real, Jules. It's not so scripted, is it?
Yeah, I know. Wow. So, I knew it was Hemingway. I was like, come on, that guy's a boozer. We know this.
A total boozer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Hemingway it was actually one of his favorite bars. Now he definitely appeared at Harry's up in Paris.
Right.
We know that I think the story goes is that the Bloody Mary was invented for Hemingway. But yeah,
he was so drunk. He was so drunk.
And then you got the Hemingway daiquiri, right?
I know.
On the Floridita. Yeah. Hemingway, he was not discerning with what he drank.
No.
So Hemingway would sit in a corner table, and this is where he finished his novel, Over the River and Into the Trees. And in the novel, if you read it, he references Harry's multiple times as a setting within the novel. And so he absolutely loved, Harry's bar. So I'm sure that actually helped, right, to make it even more popular because you got all these famous people who are frequenting it, and now they're telling stories back in the States, and other people are going, and eventually it just kind of gets around that Harry's is the place to go. So we talked about Harry's in Paris, and I said that's two different people. These two Harry's are completely unrelated. Harry McAlone was the guy who owned Harry's in Paris, and Harry didn't even own Harry's in Venice. It was Giuseppe.
Jeez.
In 2001, it was declared a national landmark, and this is a designation that had not been given out for 100 years prior. And Harry's bar got designated as a national landmark, and not even for Carpaccio and the Belini, just what it's given to the Italian history and the fabric of Venice and the fabric of Italy. So, so really cool.
That's pretty cool.
Now it turns 100 in obviously 2031. God, maybe, I don't know. We're going out to Sicily. It's kind of I think it's probably a little bit of a jog from Sicily to Venice, since we're on two opposite ends of the boot. But
I know,
God,
might be worth it.
It's kind of totally. So we definitely have to go. I definitely want to see this place. And from what I understand, it's still, like I said earlier, just as elegant as ever. And, Bellini might set you back, I think about 22 euro. But that's okay. You're having one in a place that is like historic and just dripping with stories.
Wait, how much are they?
Really cool. 22 euro. For
22 euro.
Yeah.
Shoot, that's hefty there. But I would assume, like you're saying, you're doing it for the vibes, for the experience.
For the vibes. And from what I read, for people who go, the food doesn't suffer from the fact that it's now this famous place, and now it's, part of this big conglomerate of all these different restaurants. Like the dedication and the service and the experience you get at Harry's is as good today as it ever was. And so, I think we got to go. And for those of you who are listening, you're like, you want something to do, go to Venice, because apparently that's not going to be around forever, right? As sea levels rise.
That's what I was going to say. Brad, we need a map.
A plane to Venice. We need a map.
We need a map. We've talked about so many different bars now. We need to sit down and make our map, because we have a lot of places to go.
Well, Jules, that's the story on the Belini.
That's the Belini. Well, cool. Well, I have a story on how to keep your drinks frozen.
Well, let's talk about that.
All right.
All right. Tip away.
Tip it. All right, Brad. I told you I have a tip. I have a tip. And this is an exciting tip because this is not my tip. This I actually saw on TikTok by an account called Drinks by Wild. If you haven't checked him out, go check him out. His recipes are great. He's a lot of great information for home bartenders. That is where I found his tips, and I wanted to reiterate it for the podcast. So again, at Drinks by Wild, go check him out, and we'll make sure to tag him on the website as well. So Drinks by Wild. He had a really great video for perfecting frozen drinks. So I wanted to share that here. One of the things that he suggested and recommended was using dry sugar when blending instead of syrup. You may be wondering why. Some might find it obvious.
I am.
Yeah, but syrup is using both sugar and water. We don't want to add any more water than we need in our frozen drinks as we're adding ice. So to eliminate that, he suggested using just raw sugar and then doing what's called a dry blend with the sugar and liquid ingredients before adding your ice and blending. So I think that that's an interesting tactic. I think you'd want to get your sugar measurement right for whatever drink you're making to make sure you don't over sugar sweeten it. Okay. But that was his first tip. Second one, which is a little bit tougher, but if you're going to be making a lot this summer, it might be worth investing in, is xanthan gum. It's an emulsifier and stabilizer, and he suggests using 1/8 of a teaspoon or 1/4 of a teaspoon, and you're going to add that into your dry blend mixture. Blend it together before you add your ice. Last thing, and this is easy to do. I do it all the time. Crushed ice. And I could not recommend this enough because it's going to get crushed anyway. So you're actually helping the blender. You're also helping it like blend together quicker because you don't want to be blending for too long. That's how you kind of get like soup. Because it will get warm. So the least amount you have to blend, the quicker it will go, the less warm it will get, the less it will become more watered down by that ice. So crushed ice is always really great when you're making frozen drinks.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I can see why crushed ice would work also because when I've made smoothies and whatnot with just regular old ice from the fridge, you have chunks of ice every once in a while that kind of still
stay in there.
Get busted up, and they're kind of like a little ball of ice that ends up in your mouth and you end up crunching.
It really helps for a smooth texture. I mean, mine earlier, I think I added a little bit too much crushed ice. I didn't measure quite right, which recommend always measuring. I just threw it in my Yeti cup. So that was my bad. But I always recommend starting out with 1/4 or a 1/2 cup of crushed ice. And that will really help get it going. And if you want it smoother, add in a little bit more crushed ice. But again, you don't want to over dilute your drinks. So make sure for each one you do, you always measure it out so you have consistent drinks together.
Cool.
But don't be scared of frozen drinks, especially this time of year. They're still fun and let you reminisce on what will be.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear.
Day.
And next time I make the peach puree, maybe I'll just use dry sugar as opposed to simple syrup to sweeten it up a little bit. So good tip.
Yeah. But there you go.
Right. That's great.
Well, cheers, Brad.
Cheers.